So let's summarize. I added 4 stitches every 10 rows around. That means 2 under one arm, 2 under the other arm, every 10 rows. So I did that 8 times, so that means I added 32. Okay, so now I counted 10 more rows and I am going to start the ribbing. I counted my stitches and I have 308. So that is a multiple of 4, which is what I want to do knit 2 purl 2. So if you have more or less, adjust that, like maybe under your on the sides of the sweater, like that it doesn't show as much. Okay, so now I want to start. I'm using the same size needles, I'm not changing. So knit 2 and purl 2, and I am going to place my marker where I started, so like that I can know the amount of rounds I make. And I will see you when I make as many rounds as I want. Okay, I did 9 rows of ribbing. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and on the 10th I'm going to bind off. You can make it as wide as you want, but I really don't want too much ribbing. So I am going to knit 1, knit another, and pass the first one over. Now purl, pass that one over, purl, and pass it over, knit, pass it over, knit, pass it over, purl, pass it over, purl, pass it over, and now see on when I finish this. I'm almost done with the bind off. I have 2 more stitches. So that's 1, and this is the last one. And now I cut my yarn and pass it through. Now this is what I like to do. Of course that one is going to become a little bit wobbly. You can then kind of fix it into the weaving. Okay, so let's get my yarn, and you go into that first stitch of the bind off, that very first stitch, and you pass the yarn through so that it looks like a new stitch, you see, and it's not going to be noticeable at all. Now you come to the back and weave it a couple of stitches. Make sure not to pull on it. Okay, and then we weave it in. And now we need to make the sleeves, and we will do that. So what I did here is that I picked up the stitches from the scrap yarn with one of the needles, and I have it here, and now I can take the scrap yarn off because the stitches are already in the needle. So now what I have here is the 10 stitches that I added at the bottom of the armhole. So now I am going to put a thing on the middle one, and I know that I have 5 here and 5 here. And now I am going to look for a funky one that is all alone. See, like it's that one there. See, I have a stitch there that is all alone. And so I'm going to put a pin there because I want to pick it up when I go around. And so I have the other one here, like it's like in the middle of the last stitch that you added and the first stitch from your sleeve. So I have a pin there. So now with my new ball of yarn, I'm going to leave a long tail and I'm going to pick up that stitch. I don't want these little bars to show, so I'm not going to go next to them. I'm going to go one row below. So I'll go there and pick up a stitch and go to the next stitch, also one row below. So that's 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and then the 6th is going to be that funky one that I told you about. So let me go and pick up that stitch. There we go. And now I'm going to be working from the needle where I picked up my stitches. So we're going to be working with these 2 needles throughout. And I am going to be working around. And I will see, I'm going to work to half of the sleeve because that's how much I want to go through, and I'll show you how to change your needles. Let me go more or less to half. It really doesn't have to be exactly half. It really doesn't. As long as you have more or less. Because there's no needles small enough to hold the sleeve stitch, especially at the end. You have too few stitches to go around the double pointed needle. So you can use this system with socks or with any other round project. Okay, so let's make believe that that is about half the stitches, I guess. All right, so now you are going to, this is the needle that held the stitches before, and I am going to pick up the other end of this same needle and keep knitting with the other tip. And after a few stitches you can get rid of this one and keep on knitting around. And I am going to show you when I pick up the stitches from the bottom, the other half.